Hi, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about an asteroid. We're going to be talking about Nessus. This is one that has come up in comments before when I've done videos on other asteroids. People have been curious about this. This is I actually meant to do this video and the blog post that accompanies it that will be linked, that's linked in the description box of this video. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I just got tied up with client work and other shit. So I never had the time to do this. And the past few weeks, it's been on my mind. Nessus has been on my mind, along with some other asteroids and specifically centaurs, because Nessus is a centaur. So I figured I'd go ahead and do this now. But before I start talking about Nessus, I want to make a mention of my course, The Fundamentals of Chart Weaving. I'm going to promote myself here and what I've got going on. The course starts on April 22nd, on Saturday, April 22nd. I'm only taking 8 students. I have 4 so far. So it's half filled up as of now. If you are interested in this and jumping in on this, you can shoot me an email. You can shoot it to ellie@saturnseason.com or saturnseason@gmail.com. I'll get them either way. The course is 18 weeks and it's $600 in total. But I'm happy to work with people as far as payment plans, payment installations, that kind of thing. I'm happy to do that because I know that $600 can be a lot to put out at one time. I feel that. So, but yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. If you're wanting to really learn this astrology language, it'll be a fuckload of fun. I promise you that. And you'll learn a lot. Anyway, back to Nessus. Okay, so if you do any kind of research on Nessus, not Nessus in mythology, but Nessus in a natal chart, he generally gets lumped in, well, he generally gets thought of as abusive. And he is. He certainly can be. But I do think that there are more... To me, the abuse thing with Nessus is kind of the most extreme form of his manifestation in a natal chart. Now, it certainly can. Nessus certainly could manifest in a natal chart in an abusive way. Absolutely. But I don't think that it has to manifest in an abusive way. I think it can manifest in some other ways too. And if you look at the mythology, his mythology, which is how I actually figure out how to read these asteroids, is by looking at the mythology behind, who they're named after, that mythology, that kind of thing. It's not just abuse. There's other shit going on there with Nessus as well. So before I go into how I read Nessus, I'm going to go over the mythology just quickly so everybody can figure out why I'm reading him the way that I do. You don't think I'm just pulling it out of my ass. Explaining myself, if you will. Okay, so... Nessus, I'm honestly not real clear who the fuck his parents are. I've seen it mentioned that his father was Centaurus or whatever. I've also seen it mentioned that his father was Ixon, and then a nymph, Nephil, I think was her name. I might be, I'm shit at pronouncing things. So I'm actually really not sure who the fuck his parents are. It's one of them. And I guess it really doesn't matter, but I do like to kind of nail down the family tree if I can with this kind of stuff. He was at the Centermachy, which was the and I talked about this in the video about Hylanome and in the blog post about Hylanome. This is where she died and Silurus died. But a bunch of fucking centaurs died because they got fucking rowdy, acting like assholes. A lot of the centaurs were, besides Chiron was not a rowdy asshole, but a lot of the other ones, they all were. They were all fucking rowdy, debaucherous, fucking crazy people. Crazies. They seemed like they had a lot of fun, but they were fucking wild. So he was at that. A lot of the centaurs died. He did not. After that, he fled, and went to a river. I honest for the life of me can't fucking pronounce this river, and I'm not even going to try. But he ended up being a ferryman, would help people across this river. And a big part of his mythology has to do with him helping, Hercules, and I don't know if she was his wife or just his partner, I don't know. But Hercules and Dejanira, they wanted to cross this river. And Hercules, I'm not really sure why the fuck Hercules didn't help his partner over the river himself. I don't really, I don't really understand that, but he didn't. He went across on his own, and he had Nessus help Dejanira across the river. And because he's a fucking ratty ass centaur, he couldn't just help Dejanira across the river. He decided that he couldn't control himself and tried to rape her. And in some versions of the mythology, actually does rape her. It depends on what you read. Either way, this pisses Hercules off, obviously. And he shoots an arrow that has like Hydra blood on it or something. Poison arrow. Shoots it. It hits Nessus and it kills him. Before he dies, though, he tells Dejanira essentially to like collect some of his blood. And if Hercules ever, if she were to ever think that Hercules didn't love her anymore, or she was afraid that Hercules didn't love her anymore, she could put Nessus's blood on Hercules, and it would be like a love potion, essentially. And it would cause Hercules to fall back in love with Dejanira. Why the fuck she believed this, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, this is somebody that just, like, you don't know. They just fucking tried to rape you, and you're actually going to believe what they have to say. But, you know, okay. So, a few years down the line, she either suspects that Hercules is falling in love with somebody else, or he actually has. Again, it depends on the mythology that you read. So she remembers what Nessus told her about his blood, and she puts some of Nessus's blood on one of Hercules's robes, and he takes it, leaves, puts it on, and fucking dies. In some versions of the mythology, he's just poisoned by it. In some versions of the mythology, he like goes up in flames. Either way, he dies. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of Nessus's mythology. So from the mythology, how do I kind of read Nessus in a chart? Well, I think Nessus can show where we aren't able to control ourselves. I also think Nessus can show where we don't want to control ourselves. Because with the centaurs, sometimes it seems like, and I know that's kind of a common theme for the centaurs in general, the not being able to control themselves or not wanting to. Sometimes it seems like they actually can't. Sometimes it seems like they don't want to. And in Nessus's case, though, that is like a massive hallmark of his story. He can't control himself or his dick when he's taking Dejanira across the river. Like, all you're doing is fucking taking her across the river. Just take her across a fucking river. But he can't do that because he can't control himself. So, or doesn't want to. So, to me, Nessus in a chart can be that. It can be a place in the chart where we don't want to control ourselves, or we actually can't. And sometimes it could be a little bit of both. You know, there might be times that we don't want to control ourselves, so we don't. And then there are times where we actually can't control ourselves. I also think that Nessus can deal with trickery. Because, I mean, he tricked Dejanira, right? Telling her that his blood was essentially like a love potion. He didn't put it like that, but, you know, he said that essentially, and she believed him. She was tricked by him. So Nessus could be trickery. For sure. It's also revenge. I also think revenge plays into Nessus, or can. Because, I mean, you know, he did get his revenge on Hercules and, you know, and on Dejanira. He was dead when he did it, right? But he did eventually get his revenge. So I do think that Nessus can show, you know, where we get revenge, maybe by house, and how by sign. You know, all of these are like where by house, how by sign. Another thing that I think Nessus can deal with, this one might be a little bit more in synastry, but like bad blood. Literally bad blood. I mean, there's bad blood in his story, right? His blood is bad, essentially, because it fucking kills Hercules. So I think it can, in synastry, I think there is the possibility for Nessus to show bad blood with somebody else. I do think that's possible. I do. That one's not so much in a natal chart, but like in synastry or like a composite chart, I think it could show that. I think it's very possible that it could. And then actually bad blood, like literal something wrong with your blood. Now, I'm careful when I say that, because you would want to see other indicators in the natal chart, right, to show that there were like blood issues or things like that. It would not just be like Nessus in the chart. You'd want to see other indicators of that. But it does seem like Nessus could play into that, or could play into health issues with the blood. That seems possible. So if you have some sort of, if you yourself have some kind of issue with your blood, look and see what Nessus is doing in your chart, because it could play in like that as well. I could see that. I could see that happening. And then the most severe manifestation does feel like it's abusive. Now, I don't always read it like that, because I do think that it can be some of these other things first. But I do think that Nessus could show in a chart where by house and how by sign that you could be abusive. Now keep in mind that every human being has a propensity to be abusive and to be the abused. So just because, you could have Nessus conjunct your sun and be an absolutely lovely person. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to manifest that way. It doesn't have to go that way. But it could, like in the most extreme manifestation of it. It could. It could go the abusive route, but I don't think that it has to. So if you have like a prominent Nessus in your chart, don't automatically think, oh my God, I'm going to be an abuser. Don't think that. I don't think that's the case. Plus, you'd want to see other things in the chart too. Like, there are other things that could point towards somebody perhaps going a more abusive route, rather that's beyond just Nessus. I would want to see many things going on, really, before I would think to myself, oh, that person's abusive. I would have to see a lot of different indicators. But abuse is... Being abusive is one way that Nessus could manifest, but again, the most extreme version of that. Another thing you can look at with Nessus is Dejanira. Her asteroid number is 157. I don't think I said Nessus's already. Nessus is 7066. I'll put that in the description box so you can pull it on astro.com if you want to. But Dejanira is 157. Now, I do think, Dejanira is always mentioned as the abused. Absolutely. I think Dejanira could totally point towards being abused in a chart. But again, I think that's the most extreme manifestation of it. I'll be honest. Dejanira, I feel bad for her, but in the mythology, she's kind of dumb. I'm sorry. I mean, why would you believe anything that he has to say? Especially, I mean, it's not like this is, it's not like this was somebody that she wasn't in a relationship with Nessus. He was some fucking creep pervert just taking her across a river. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like when somebody believes something that somebody says when they know them a long time, they're in a relationship with them, that's different. But this was just some guy that she like didn't know that tried to rape her, and then she's gonna believe what he has to tell her. To me, Dejanira and a chart can be a place where we might be kind of dumb, or have the propensity to be kind of dumb in those areas of life, and then by house, and then how by sign. That's one way that I do read her. And we all have Dejanira somewhere in our chart, so I'm not ragging. We're all dumb. We're all dumb somewhere. Like, that probably sounds really crass and kind of harsh, but that is kind of how I think of her when I see her in a chart. When I pull her in a chart. Also, perhaps the propensity to be tricked. That seems just as likely. It's probably, maybe a nicer way to say what I just did. But I do think that, where she is in a chart could show, what areas of life you might get tricked in, and then how by sign. And then the most, extreme manifestation of her could be, being abused. That but again, that's like with Nessus, that is the most extreme example of that, or extreme way to read her. Now, do I always pull Nessus and Dejanira? No, I don't. I don't always pull a lot of asteroids. But if I do for some reason, or somebody asks me to, I generally, this is me personally, by all means, if you do something else, have at it. I do tend to focus on conjunctions with the asteroids. Couple of degrees, applying and separating with a natal planet. It's kind of what I look for in terms of like a strong Nessus, or the angles. Nessus conjunct an angle would be strong. Dejanira conjunct an angle would be strong too. That kind of stuff. The nodes, anything like that is going to be more strong. Nessus and Dejanira, or really any asteroid. But I would do an orb of 2 degrees applying and separating, or maybe 3 degrees applying and separating. I don't think I'd go out more than 3. But if you've got, I don't know, if you have, if you've got Nessus conjunct some planet or something, it maybe, it doesn't have, I think what it is the person just needs to be aware. Like, again, we all have these propensities. We're all human. So we all have, it's possible for all of us to be like the abuser or the abused, the trickster or the one that's tricked. The one who can't control themselves, and the one who suffers from that. We all can play these different roles. So I guess my advice would be, if you've got Nessus conjunct a natal planet or an angle or the nodes or whatever, same thing with Dejanira, is just be aware of these themes. Just be aware that they're going on, that they could be going on. Because, knowledge is power. If you've got Nessus conjunct your sun, maybe it takes a little bit more for you to get control of yourself. Maybe. It's possible. Doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that it might take a little bit more effort, perhaps. Perhaps if you've got Dejanira conjunct your sun, maybe there's a propensity to be more tricked. It's possible. Or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't think of it as like always, I'm going to be abused or I'm going to be the abuser, because I don't think that's the case. And I actually think the more aware people are of these things in their chart, especially if they make like conjunctions with natal planets, angles, what have you, they could actually utilize these energies in a much more positive way. Being aware that that possibility exists, shaking hands with it, and making sure that it doesn't come about. You know what I mean? Rather than ignoring it. You can also pull these together in synastry. Now, I will say, if I see them together in synastry, like if I see like somebody's Nessus conjunct somebody's Dejanira, I mean, I don't love that. I'll be honest. I'm not a fan. They honestly probably have to have pretty bomb ass synastry other than that for me to really think that it might be good. That kind of. I mean, you would want to take the whole chart into account, but I won't lie, that would kind of bother me a little bit to see that. I don't see that too often, but I have seen it before, and I'm kind of like, but okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to jump off, but I hope this helped answer any questions for anybody that was curious about this particular one. If you want to share where you've got Nessus in your chart or how you would read Nessus, by all means, leave it in the comments below. Yeah, and I will see y'all later.